Where would we be without the various products delivered by the men and women in the trucking industry? Healthy Conversations in Trucking podcast is a platform for professional long-haul truck drivers to share their journeys over the road, educating listeners about the trucking industry and lifestyle. Now, let's dive into the conversation on this brand new episode. Well, I'm really excited to introduce all of you to our guests on this episode. We're joined by a team, Carla and Robert Holmes. Welcome both of you to the podcast. How are you?
Hi. Hello. I'm good. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for having us.
I'm excited about this one. I was like, this is a full, I told them before we start recording to just say, imagine we're sitting at the table, we're getting to know each other. So I hope that all of you listening will have that, kind of feel of just sitting around the table. Why don't we just kick off with, like I normally do, and just kind of getting to know you all? Why don't you tell me a bit about yourself? Maybe Carla, you can start out with, how long you've been in trucking?
Okay. So, I've actually been driving since November 2nd of 2020. I finished school and got my license on October 18th. And prior to that, I was in the behavioral health field for 5 years. So I worked as a peer support and did case management for a methadone and drug and alcohol treatment facility. And so it's all my husband's fault. He got me started into the truck driving.
Wow, that's interesting. That's a really interesting background. So how did he convince you to come into trucking?
So COVID had hit in 2020. And like I said, I worked for 5 years in behavioral health. And, I accumulated quite a bit of PTO because I just didn't take off work. Mm-hmm. And he had been asking me to go in the truck with him. And stuff was stressful at work. There was all these new, you have to wear masks. And I was not liking that at all. And I finally said, okay, I'm going to take 2 weeks of my PTO. I'm going to go with you in the truck. And this isn't a setup, right? You're not trying to get me into an enclosed space and we get into this huge argument and all of a sudden you have this reason to divorce me, right? Because I told him that. And he said, no, I promise. I want you to experience what I experienced. And I said, okay. And so I did. And it was the best 2 weeks I think that we had ever had. We didn't get into a single argument. At the end of the time that I was with him, I said, I don't want to go home. I want to stay in the truck with you. And he said, well, then call work and tell them that you're not coming back. And I'm like, well, okay, if I'm going to be in the truck, I want to make some money too. So I went home. That was the middle of April. I went home. I did what I needed to figure out how to go to school, and I got a grant to pay for it.
Oh, wow.
And so on July 11th, I started truck driving school, and I worked full time and went to school part time until I graduated.
Wow. What a story. I love that. And you're strategic. You're like me. I would have had to map it out.
I did. I totally did.
Oh my gosh. Well, Robert, now I've got to hear from you. Tell me about, how long have you been in trucking? Tell me, your version of how you, up to that point where you were able to woo Carla into the driving, industry.
Well, first of all, let me start out by saying my wife is way smarter than I am. And I think she tricked me into thinking it was my idea. I think it was her idea the whole time.
Oh, really?
But I was an iron worker, I don't know, for 40 plus years. And, it took a pretty good toll on my body. And, I've always dreamed, I don't know, one of the things I've always wanted to do was drive that big truck. Mm. So in 2018, I went to school for it. And, the rest is history. I've been driving for almost 4 years. When my wife did come over with me, I was driving oversized and heavy haul. And there's only a certain amount of hours you can drive a day. So we weren't, utilizing our clocks to their full potential and making money. So we pulled into a weigh scale one weekend and we prayed, asked God to guide us to the right job. And, it took, I know this sounds kind of fast, but 2 days later, we got a phone call from Alex and Anya from HBM Express, and they offered us a job. And I got to tell you, it's been the best year and a half that I've had yet with my wife. So,
aw, that is wonderful. So, what do you haul now then?
General freight.
General freight. Okay.
We started out drop and hook. They asked us if we wanted to run reefer, and I said no, thank you. I don't want to do reefer. We're kind of looking for coast to coast for a drive, hauling a dry van. Mm-hmm. And he goes, well, hold on a minute. So he got back to us about 10 minutes later, and they got us a gig with UPS doing drop and hook. And it was fantastic. We just loved it.
Oh, that's really great. Oh my goodness. I'm beaming over here. This is such a great story. So you guys, how long do you spend over the road before you go back home? I think you're home right now, right?
Yes, we're actually home now. So typically we leave on a Monday. It can be like Monday morning, Monday afternoon, depending. And normally we're home by Friday, Saturday at the latest, because we have to be stopped and not driving for 36 hours to reset our clocks.
34. Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, 34. I was wrong. 34 hours.
Hey, that word doesn't come out of her mouth too often.
Wrong.
But we have our recording now, Robert.
Right. Yeah, I know. No, there's proof out there now. Oh, man.
I get to hit play back and rewind. Right on.
Yeah. So we have to be home at least that long, to be able to go back out. Cause we live in Arizona. So, okay. And we go like 2 weeks ago, we went all the way to Massachusetts. Last week we did a shorter run. We went to Washington State and back. So, but we're usually home every weekend, and we've had a couple of instances where the truck broke down. And so obviously we were stuck wherever we were at and didn't get home until like the following weekend. But, that's just part of trucking.
Yeah.
What people don't realize is there is such a high demand for truck drivers right now. Once my wife had 6 months under her belt, a year, we were able to, we got lucky. This company called us. Mm-hmm. But, you're able to, when the companies call, right off the bat, they want you out for 2 to 3 weeks. They want you home for 3 to 4 days. But, we right in the beginning, we stop them and say, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is our experience. This is who we are. We're looking Monday through Friday, weekends off. And, in the beginning, there's a lot of trucking companies that don't want to offer that. But there's enough trucking companies that are going to keep calling. Eventually, you're going to find what you're looking for. So, we were able to get what we were looking for, and, we're home every weekend. So
that's really nice. That's really nice. I think, I brought it up to my husband a few times, and he's like not having it. I guess he feels like, I got to get the money's worth off of all this grad school stuff before do your doctoral stuff, do your epi stuff.
I can tell you right now, for having to go to truck driving school for 2 to 4 months, however long your school is, the starting pay for a team driver is quite high. And after a few years to get to where me and Carla are, you can go to college for 6 years and not make what we're making right now.
Yeah. Oh, I believe you. I do believe you. This is really, I think what I like is how you all are able to, this really fits into your lifestyle. Like you're framing this to fit into what you want. And I like to hear that. And I also like how you are sharing that, because people listening that may be considering that, need to be aware of, like you said, the times that we're in. And it's a very good positioning for anyone that's, going into this as a team and has some experience.
Well, a lot of people, they get home on a Friday night. It's 3:00 in the morning. They just left a club or whatever, and they see these infomercials. Mm-hmm. Be a truck driver, get your license in 2 months, and make $60,000 a year your first year. What people don't realize, this is work. There is work. It's not just sitting behind the steering wheel, sitting in a seat. and driving cross country, having fun. There's a lot of work involved, and it is a lifestyle. It becomes a way of life. And it's not for everybody. It's not for everyone. But, if you learn to adapt and you learn, to embrace what you have, it's a fantastic life.
Yeah. That's really great. Actually,
but there's one thing you got to remember.
Uh-huh.
As you drive, whether it's a team or a couple, there's one person in charge, and that's the person driving the truck.
Yeah.
Once we got past that, things got good.
Right.
I think that's a very good, that point. Well, if you have that one rule in place, maybe put it on a sign somewhere that stays on the dash where you can all see it.
All right.
Well, people love to backseat drive.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a good point.
Well,
Make
the
that real
person,
clear.
whoever's driving is in charge of the truck. It's their license. Anything goes wrong, it's their career.
Right.
And this is a career. It's a career move.
Right. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you take me straight into what I wanted to ask you about next. I know you've just described kind of, Carla mentioned you guys have gone to Massachusetts, you've gone to Oregon. Do you have a favorite area or region of the country that you like to travel in?
For me, it's the less populated areas.
So my experience is that I don't mind driving I-40 across because for me personally, I feel like it's a safe route, right? Or even I-30, I-20. I do not like I-70. I do not like having to go through Colorado and those big mountains, and it's just 2 lanes. So, and there's no exits or rest areas or anything that are designed for trucks. In fact, what little rest areas they have along that route that goes through Colorado, they'll say specifically no trucks allowed in the rest areas. So if anything happens on that road and there's an accident and you're stuck for hours upon hours. There's no way for you to say, okay, I'm going to get off on this exit and reroute myself. So I try to avoid 70 at all costs. It's not completely avoidable depending on where we have to go. But if I don't have to travel that route, I don't.
And I love it because it is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful ride.
It is beautiful, but...
But I like the less populated. I like the back roads. I like the country. New York City, no, you can have that.
And California, he doesn't like California because the speed limit's 55 miles an hour, and he doesn't like to drive 55 miles an hour.
Oh, my goodness. It's kind of funny that you guys are kind of the yin yang. What you like is something, you're describing what you don't like about 70, and he goes, well, I love it. It's beautiful.
Right. Yeah, it is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It is definitely beautiful, but man, I don't want to be stuck on that road.
Yeah.
I don't. And the mountains going down are they're pretty steep.
Yeah.
And even though you're an experienced driver, at any time something can happen, right? And if I have the ability to minimize the risk that I have to go through while I'm in the vehicle, then I will.
Yeah. That makes good sense. I like that. That's probably the way I would look at it too. I would like it for the view because I do love the mountains, but when it comes, if I actually had to drive a big truck, and from what you're describing, I'd be really stressed. So let's see. I'm going to ask you, you've told me a lot about both of you, what you like and don't like. I want to ask 2 questions. I want to know what you like the most about what you do, and then what you like the least about what you do. So let's start with the most. What do you like the most about trucking?
Okay, so I love the fact that I get to see so many different places. One of the things that I love is being able to watch the sunrise come up, being able to watch the different sunsets. There is so much beauty across this country that I get to see. And I get a lot of what I call God time when I'm driving, because we're a team. He's usually in the bunk sleeping while I'm driving. So it's just me and the road, and I get all this time that I get to spend with my God, basically, like my spirituality. And it's a very freeing experience. That's what I love the most. What I don't like is there's two things. One, I don't like the fact that there's so much inconsideration with fellow truck drivers at the fuel stations. A lot of people use the fuel stop as their 30-minute break, or they're not courteous enough to pull forward so that the next driver can start fueling their vehicle. And in this business, time is money, right? Yeah. And so when you're sitting there making me sit for 40 minutes before I can even fuel my truck up, you just cost me money. And I think that is, I go nuts. I want to pull my hair out. And the other thing is the people on the road. I feel like DMV should, like, part of the 16-year-old driving, learning experience is to teach them about truck drivers. Like, I drive a weapon. Literally, I drive a weapon.
Right.
And when a little car decides that they're in a hurry or they don't have time to wait and they're going to pull in front of me and then all of a sudden slam on their brakes, I can't stop like that car can. And you're potentially putting me in a situation that I'm going to run you over. And it's not going to be my fault. It's going to be your fault. And a lot of these cars, they think, every single one of those trucks on the road, they have cameras in them for a reason, really, to prove that this accident was not my fault. It was yours because of your irresponsibility and lack of patience on the road. That drives me nuts. I wish there was more training and people were more knowledgeable about really what it takes for a vehicle of that size to stop. The turning radius, a lot of times we have to pull wide from the turn to turn right. And you'll see on the trucks all the time, this truck makes wide turns. And when you give someone just enough of a little gap and they see your blinker, they're still going to try and pull in there. And again, that's not the truck driver's fault. That's the individual in the car. And that frustrates me. So that's my answer.
Yeah, I hear a lot of that. In fact, I hear my husband, Jonathan, always talks about the first thing you mentioned about the inconsideration about taking your break in the fuel lane. He said that he talks about that almost daily.
Oh, it drives me crazy.
Yeah. So what about you, Robert? What do you like the most and least about what you do?
I love the freedom. Where we get dispatched, say we got to leave Arizona, go pick up over in San Diego, and we got to go to Massachusetts. The freedom. You know what? Our company allows us to we get to make our own choices how we get there. We just got to be there by a certain time. That's it. And the way Carla and I manage our time, we are always early. So I love the freedom that we get, because of the fact that we're always early. If we want to stop and have dinner, if we go down south and we go through Louisiana and we see big crawfish dinner, oh yeah, I'm stopping in for some crawfish. You know what I mean? We don't get that stuff in the desert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What I don't like is, because we show up early, our wait times at our shipping and receiving. Like this past trip, we showed up, we got there early, and by the time we got into a dock, we got unloaded, it had been 12 hours, 13 hours. And then we had to go 32 miles to get loaded, and we got there and it was another 6-hour wait. So for us, our downtime, we get paid by the mile. We don't get paid for waiting. We do get detention pay, but detention pay is it's not even minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're sitting for a total of, say, 10 hours, we're not making any money. So for me, I don't like the waiting. I like the drop and hook, but
that makes
other
sense.
than that, there's a few other things, but I think that comes with learning how to work well as a team.
Mm-hmm.
Because trust me, there are some heated moments in that truck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you get in that heated moment, trying to find a solution can be difficult. And it's not like being at home where I can walk outside and go into the shop and start working on my motorcycle, or she can go to her room and do her sewing. When we're in that truck, at all times, we're 2 to 3 feet away from each other, and there's no getting out, leave me here. So,
right.
It's and once the words leave the mouth, you can't take them back.
Right.
So it has its moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the beginning, he said he had wished there was an eject button because he would have ejected me so many times.
But then, and that's true, I would have ejected her. But then a couple months into it, I realized that she could eject me too.
Right.
Because there's times that I would be sitting in that seat. So I learned that it's both of us,
Mm-hmm.
and which is why I said earlier in the podcast that, there's what I had to learn in the beginning. I've been around this stuff my whole life. She's coming out from working at a drug and alcohol center. She has no idea what she's getting into. So in the beginning, it was like, you know what? I'm the captain. You're the number one. You're going to listen to what I say.
Mm-hmm.
And what I had to learn was that whoever is behind the driver's seat, that is the person that's in charge of that rig.
Yeah.
Because it's ultimately, they're the one, it's their license. If anything goes wrong, they're the one who's going to get in trouble. So I had to learn to trust my wife, trust her, when I'm in the back sleeping, that she's going to make the right decisions. Because just because you get a license, just because you get certified does not mean you're qualified. It means that you can make professional decisions out on the road. Mm-hmm. And that as well takes a little time and, takes some experience to get to learn to make the right decisions.
Yeah. I appreciate all of that. I know that would be a huge issue if Jonathan and I were to go over the road. I know that would be a massive issue because, okay, let me just give you an example. He's teaching me, and I'm using air quotes, teaching me to play golf. And I just want to go to the driving range and just let me practice some of these things I've already learned. But he's watching every single thing. And he's wanting to tell me, head down, bend your knees, follow through, keep your eye on the ball, all the things. So that would
taking the fun out of it.
Yes, that would definitely, he would never sleep he would never sleep and let me just drive because he'll always have all of those years over me. And he does it now even. So but I think on the other hand, I think what it's actually helping you all do is really master your communication skills.
Absolutely.
Because, those.
And in the beginning, he didn't sleep a lot. He was,
snowstorms, anything. I could not sleep. I'd be sleeping 2 hours here, 2 hours there.
Yeah. This is also, go ahead.
and it just was, there was many a times in the beginning, I would say the first 6 months was the hardest because we are husband and wife, right? Mm-hmm. So it completely changes the dynamic. I'm not just some person that they've just put in the truck with him that they're like, hey, you need to train this individual, right? There's a personal connection now. Yeah. And so I would get emotional if he would yell at me and tell me that I'm not doing it right. And I don't know if truck driving's for you, Carla. I mean, I can't believe you don't know how to do this part of it yet, right? Whatever the case may have been at that moment. And I would start crying, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, why are you crying? Why are you crying? There's no crying in truck driving.
Oh my God.
Right? And I'm like, and then there were moments where I would be like, he'd start trying to tell me what to do. And I would say, stop right now. Just and he would try to say, I'm like, Just let me do it.
Yeah.
And, where if that was, if it wasn't husband and wife, the dynamic is completely different,
That's true.
So that was a huge struggle.
Well, there was times that, I'm not going to lie, I had to crawl into the bunk, lay down and close my eyes and just let her do it.
Yep.
And there are times that I had to get out of the truck and walk away, to the other side of the parking lot and just let her do it. The only way she's going to do it is to learn. Because like you were just, you were saying, learning how to play golf. If somebody's yelling at you or telling you what to do over and over and over and over, number one, it starts to get hard to listen to them. It takes the fun away from it. And it takes away the learning factor of just let me do it on my own. I'll figure it out. I will learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And another thing, when we got in the truck, one of the things, when we're home, we're married. When we get in that truck, the marriage stays at home. We're now a team. We're team. We work together now. So we have to leave the marriage at the house.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, that was major in the beginning. Now we get out and walk across the parking lot and she wants to hold hands. And I'm like, there's no holding hands in trucking. Like, leave the married life, leave marriage at home. But now we've gotten to a point where things are so good. Our relationship has grown so much. Yeah. Things are good for us on the road now.
We still have a hiccup here and there, but I mean, it's like when that happens, it's like 5 minutes later, we're okay.
Instead of 2 weeks, instead of I'm not talking to you for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys, I see there's so much value in everything you're sharing. I think right now, one of the things that's standing out is there may be someone listening to this who's actually thought about maybe, bringing their spouse in, and you guys are providing a real live examples of what it's like. So thank you for sharing all your stories and tidbits and insights and it definitely was resonating with me. And I'm thinking, this is probably why my husband doesn't want to. It's probably not what he was saying about me and my profession. It's probably more of we probably drive each other crazy. I think he.
Well, the big thing is what you got to realize is when you're driving on the road together, it's 24/7 that you're together.
Yeah,
you're never apart from each other.
Yep.
And then you get home. And now you're home together. You don't get, and there in the beginning, it's like, I need to get away from you. I need to take a little break. I need a couple hours to myself. But we're at the point now, we just took a 3-week vacation and we're going away on the motorcycle for 3 weeks together. We're not even separating. We're not taking our own vacations.
Yeah. I'm going to be stuck right behind him, not even any space.
Now, I think we could get to that part to where we could enjoy all that. It's just that transition of getting to that place that I see where the scary part is. But not saying it's not doable, but just that's some things, there's some definite great points that you guys have brought up, but those are things that people need to be aware of, that transition to adjusting to, and I guess it would be the same for any other business. If you think about it, couples that go into business together, I'm sure they have some sort of rule where they have to kind of check the marriage and become the coworkers or the colleagues and, and not let those overlap. There has to be some sort of structure there.
Yes. And not giving up, because there is going to be that time period that it feels like this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. We've made a mistake. We need to walk away right now. And it's tough walking through that moment and realizing that how it feels right now isn't going to be forever. Everything changes. We just need to make it through this time.
Yes. Realize that, you know what, in those moments, our feelings are lying to us.
Yeah.
But another big thing for Carla and I that we haven't mentioned is, in the beginning, we have a friend of ours. We find our strength in prayer and in God. And somebody told us to hang a cross up in the middle of the truck in the console And when things get bad and we want to quit and we want to run away, just to grab the cross and remember why we were doing it. So, like that. For us, prayer, God, Jesus, that's a big part of our lifestyle. And it's a big part. We take that into our trucking too. So,
yeah.
Yeah. I like that so much. It sounds like this, has really strengthened your relationship. Like we're talking about a lot of the real challenges in the process, but this overall process sounds like it has really strengthened you all. And so this lifestyle over the road and all the challenges to find its kind of happy place has just brought you close together and improved your communication and just strengthened your relationship all around.
Oh yeah, he has a cousin that's a truck driver, and before I got in the truck, even before he became a truck driver, he called him up and said, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking of," and he said to him, he's like, "Well, this will do one of two things: it'll either strengthen your marriage or it'll destroy it." Right? That there wasn't going to be any in between, and for him to go on the road and me stay home, even just that 2 years. Was strengthening because I wasn't used to him being gone, right? And it was like, am I going to be okay with this? How is this going to work?
And she has control issues.
I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
I had control issues. So in the beginning, I told him, I'm like, okay, so that I don't get crazy in my head and become this psychotic crazy woman and do crazy things because that can happen. I'm like, I gave him one rule when he went on the road. I'm like, you have to talk to me every day. Okay. And if you get upset at me, you can't not answer the phone and not call me because I need to know that I have to have that communication.
Yeah.
You may not be here and you're on the road, but I need to have that communication. You need to just promise me that one thing.
Yeah. I failed at that, by the way.
But it helped me to grow.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you guys are amazing. I'm so glad that we got a chance to have this conversation. I have one more question for you and then we'll kind of wrap up. Okay. I know that there's a lot of health related challenges over the road in general. And I know you're sometimes different for men than women. So I'd like to know what your biggest health related challenge is and how you're addressing it.
He doesn't gain weight and I do. That is so not fair.
Yes, I know.
So before I got into the truck, probably about a year and a half before I started driving, I had decided that I wanted to lose some weight. And so I started, I didn't go full keto. I just started being aware of my carbohydrate intake. And so I had lost 40 pounds. I was down from 170 to 135 pounds. Okay. And I was maintaining that weight. And then when I got in the truck, I found out that I am powerless over Cinnabons. And I started eating Cinnabons every time we stopped at a fuel stop that had Cinnabons.
And she got Cinnabut.
And now I'm back up to my 170. And I'm not, and everybody says, Carla, but you look great. You're not. I'm like, yeah, but I was 135, and it's hard to eat low carb on the road because everywhere we stop, it's McDonald's or Jack in a Box or Wendy's and pizza. They serve the pizzas in the fuel stops and the refrigerator in the truck is so tiny that you can only take so much. And so I try to take healthy stuff, but it is very difficult.
Yes, definitely. Understand.
Well, for me, I get up about 11:30 at night and I start driving and, right around 11:45. But I don't eat until 8, 9 o'clock the next morning. So I go the first 9 hours without eating. And then I usually eat a meal with Carla, 10 o'clock in the morning. She's the opposite. She gets in the truck and starts eating immediately. And when she drives, she eats. I don't. So, I don't know. That's for me, it's never been really the big problem. So I don't really have any health issues on the road. Except that before I started truck driving, I was in an accident in 2006, and I broke my neck and was paralyzed from the neck down. They said I wouldn't walk again. And I believe once, God healed me, because without surgery, I got full use of my body back. And then 2010 shattered my back. Same thing happened there. And so my biggest fear was, how is my back and my neck going to be during this? But we have air seats, we have air cab, air ride, air shot. We have, I don't know. Health issues have not affected me yet. So thank you, God.
Yes, that is, my goodness, that is amazing. Just hearing about the broke neck that you recovered from, shattered back, all this before trucking, and then just knowing what over the road riding in the truck and sleeping in the bunks, all that could do, and you don't have any issues. That is truly a miracle. All right. There's so much more I could ask you all, but I'm going to be cognizant of our time.
And before we finish, can I just give a shout out to our company?
Please do. Yes.
All right. Carla and I work for HBM Express out of
Burr Ridge, Illinois.
The owners are Alex and Anya. And I like to give a shout out for Peter and Darko, who were our main dispatchers, but we now have a dispatchette. Her name is Ava, and she is the most awesome, sweetest dispatch we've ever had. So thank you, everybody. We're truly grateful for you guys and all that you provide for us.
Oh, that was really wonderful. Oh, no, they appreciate that. We'll actually tag them when we post this on social media as well.
Yay!
Well, thank you both. Thank you first for what you do. Part of the purpose of this podcast is to really highlight the men and women that choose this profession and do this important work that keep our country moving. So I appreciate what you do. And secondly, I appreciate you for coming on the podcast and sharing your story, because we are early, getting started with the podcast, but with great vision to really grow this, to just continue to highlight the men and women over this industry. So thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Plus, I enjoyed hearing from you and learning from you and just the conversation overall.
No, thank you
so much. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the Healthy Conversations in Trucking podcast. Learn more or be a guest on a future episode by visiting healthyconversationsinTrucking.com or simply HCITpodcast.com.